Hi, welcome to the world of learning. This is Bharat from GNR Technologies Private Limited, and today we discuss topic on common myths on SD-WAN. The topic of SD-WAN has been a hot one over the past several years. This makes sense because in most companies, the WAN hasn't been updated for decades and SD-WANs have the potential to modernize the network and bring it into alignment with the rest of IT. However, like most new technologies, I find there are a number of common misconceptions when it comes to SD-WANs. Part of the problem is that the vendor ecosystem has exploded, and the many vendors that approach the market from different angles muddy the waters, making it hard to discern what's real, what's misleading, and what's downright wrong. To help buyers make sense of what's happening in the SD-WAN world, here are the myths to watch out for, and why they aren't correct. Number 1. SD-WAN improves the performance of your internet connections. Plugging broadband circuits into an SD-WAN device will not improve performance. Application traffic may be subject to best efforts of public internet. Forward error correction. FEC improves application performance. FEC is a technique used to make data more reliable by encoding the message in a redundant way. Conceptually, it's easy to understand why one might think FEC improves app performance, since it corrects for dropped packets, but it actually degrades performance. FEC makes apps more reliable, but it does so by creating more data traffic. There's a significant difference between reliability and performance, and the two can be at odds with one another. Dynamic path selection is the same as quality of service goes. I've seen the two terms used interchangeably, but they're quite different. Dynamic path selection is about choosing the best path to use. An example of this is that video traffic could be sent down an MPLS circuit to ensure the best performance. However, sometimes businesses want to optimize for cost. Email, for instance, is not real-time, so a decision could be made to route it over broadband, optimizing for cost, not performance. GOES, on the other hand, is about reserving bandwidth for better control over mission-critical or bandwidth-sensitive applications. How does SD-WAN improve application performance? SD-WAN purposefully routes application traffic across multiple active circuits. SD-WAN prioritized application traffic. Prioritization leads to GOES. This is actually only partially a myth. Assuming the business understands which apps are most important, prioritization can be thought of as an input into a complete GOES plan. By itself, though, it won't ensure performance. The two are certainly related, but it really depends on the implementation. The only way to know whether a vendor is using the terms incorrectly is to test the solution yourself. GOES isn't really needed to optimize the performance of business applications. I've seen this a couple of times, and it actually makes me chuckle because it has a big-time myth. I get where the thought is coming from if one uses caching, acceleration, and other optimization techniques, perhaps GOES isn't needed. But the fact is we live in the applications era, and applications drive the business. The only way to control the performance of the applications is through the use of GOES. SD-WAN will cut your network costs in half. Savings will be realized from low-cost internet access. SD-WAN will replace routers and firewalls at network edge. However, budgets typically stay the same or increase. Increased spend on cloud and networking technologies, like SD-WAN. SD-WANs always save money over traditional MPLS. This is another pseudo-myth and truth. If the business ditches its MPLS and replaces it with broadband, then the transport costs will certainly drop. In most of the implementations I have seen, though, the company keeps the MPLS and buys broadband to augment that network, which results in a net higher cost. There are certainly a number of benefits to a hybrid SD-WAN, which is why I don't like the decision being made to save money on the network transport. It should be a very small part of the overall decision. How does SD-WAN increase return on investment? Hybrid network with high-performance MPLS or dedicated internet and low-cost broadband internet. Better support for cloud-based and media-rich applications. Reduces network costs on a per megabit basis. SD-WANs do not have anything to do with digital transformation. A decade ago, no one would link the network to business outcomes. A lot has changed since then, and all of the digital building blocks, such as IoT, cloud and mobility, are network-centric. Every business now depends on its network. And for organizations that have lots of branches, such as banks, retailers and the like, the quality of the network will ultimately determine the success or failure of digital initiatives. SD-WANs are only about improving application performance. Again, this is kind of true. In general, we do things in corporate IT to make apps run better, and SD-WANs play a key role in that. However, SD-WANs also increase reliability and availability of applications. One might assume that reliability and availability are the same things as performance, but they are actually quite different. A network could have outstanding reliability and never be down, yet the applications could perform poorly. On the other hand, apps could scream across the network but the network could be down a lot. SD-WAN solutions are simple to set up and maintain. Networking experts are required to design, configure and manage the SD-WAN solution. You need to have networking expert who knows how to design and reconfigure existing and new network setup. The design includes static or dynamic routes for internal and external routes over Internet, security features and failover. SD-WAN or MPLS killer. MPLS is a better solution for companies requiring circuit SLAs and performance guarantees. Most firms will be hesitant to replace reliable MPLS directly with SD-WAN. SD-WAN will be integrated incrementally at branch location to create hybrid network. SD-WAN can be integrated in location where MPLS is non-feasible. SD-WAN is better than MPLS if your company doesn't run real-time apps over the WAN. If your company has a lot of mission-critical, real-time apps running over the WAN, that is your phone calls, video conferencing or remote desktop, MPLS might still trump SD-WAN or at least for this traffic type. Although it brings a lot of benefits to the table, SD-WAN still uses the public internet to connect your sites. And once your packets hit the public internet, you will not be able to guarantee low levels of packet loss, latency and jitter, the killers of real-time applications. The slight exception is if your company's real-time applications are hosted in the cloud, as opposed on-premises, and you are considering using a cloud-enabled SD-WAN solution. Here's the good news. If the vast majority of traffic on your company's WAN is comprised of non-real-time applications, such as email, file sharing, software, etc., SD-WAN can bring the following benefits over MPLS. Increased bandwidth. With MPLS, if you need 100 M plus bandwidth, monthly circuit costs will often make your hair stand on end. Sometimes it has the router costs and sometimes it has the circuits themselves, but the point is, high bandwidth MPLS is usually pricey. SD-WAN, however, allows your company to utilize multiple, high bandwidth, inexpensive internet connections, simultaneously, that is business class cable, fiber, 4G, etc. By aggregating multiple connections, your company will experience fast internet speed at a low cost. Increased performance. SD-WAN will throttle low-priority traffic on the fly and, if you have multiple ISP connections, always send your traffic across the internet circuit with the fastest route. MPLS will not perform either of these actions. With MPLS, there is only one network connection and your class of service, KIS, settings are static, without the ability to adjust on the fly. Increased uptime. By allowing your company to aggregate multiple ISP internet and WAN connections at a single site, your company will have seamless circuit redundancy for your WAN, across multiple circuit types and service provider networks. MPLS providers sometimes have a failover to a secondary internet connection, but it is typically not instantaneous and it is almost never able to have a third option. Increased performance at small, remote or international sites. Nearly every company has sites which are not a good fit for their MPLS network because they are either too small and cannot justify the high cost of an MPLS circuit, or they are not serviceable by their MPLS provider because they are in a remote or international location where their MPLS provider does not have network. In these locations, companies with MPLS are typically forced to suffer through less than desirable performance as they run all traffic over AMPSC VPN. To the contrary, SD-WAN is provider agnostic and will deliver the same benefits, no matter which underlying ISP your company is using. No longer imprisoned by your ISP. With MPLS, you must have the same MPLS service provider at all sites, making it an all-or-nothing relationship. As a result, it takes a whole lot of reasons to make you want to go through the hassle of switching your company's MPLS provider. You are stuck, which is how your MPLS provider loves it. With SD-WAN being ISP agnostic, your company is never stuck in ISP prison and can add and remove ISPs at any site, anytime, with ease. Cool benefits, right? This is why companies are often keeping a reduced size MPLS network for their real-time applications and still adding SD-WAN for all other WAN applications, that is a hybrid WAN. SD-WAN is better than MPLS if your company is using the cloud. As I mentioned, cloud-enabled SD-WAN solutions are game changers if your company is using a lot of applications hosted in the cloud, such as Amazon Web Services, Office 365 and Salesforce. With a cloud-enabled SD-WAN service provider, your on-site SD-WAN box sends your traffic to a cloud gateway, which then connects you to your cloud applications and keeps your cloud sessions running, even while it reconnects you to a better circuit. For instance, if you have hosted VoIP and a user is on a phone call, if you lose your primary internet connection, the user will not lose their call because the cloud gateway keeps the session constant while it reconnects to your site's secondary internet connection, within milliseconds. In addition, some cloud-enabled SD-WAN providers have direct connections to the major cloud service providers. This means once your traffic hits your SD-WAN provider's nearest cloud gateway, you connect directly to your cloud provider, as opposed to having to continue traversing the public internet to reach them. This means less latency, packet loss and jitter, which equates to a better user experience with your company's cloud applications. Some MPLS service providers offer a direct connect feature for certain cloud providers, but none of them offer the ability of a cloud gateway to keep your session constant as it reconnects you to a backup connection. There is certainly a lot to think about when deploying an SD-WAN. I've outlined a number of the more common myths that network engineers may encounter. The only way to truly sift through all the marketing noise is to test the implementations and see what they do to network uptime, application performance, and other metrics the business cares about. I hope I did a better job answering the question. Get in touch with us. Thank you for viewing.